And with that, we are going to get started. And I wanted to introduce to you our guest tonight is Brandon Fender. Brandon hails from North Carolina and served with and retired from the Marine Corps after serving multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. In 2010, Brandon was injured and a prescription led to addiction. Brandon is a graduate of Treehouse Recovery and is now the program director of the brand new program in Nashville, Tennessee. Brandon, we thank you for your service and we are excited to hear your story of hope. And with that, we will let you just get started. We're glad to hear from you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Um, so yeah, I'll kind of just start from the beginning, a little bit about my childhood, where I come from, and kind of everything that led me to where I am today. First and foremost, thank y'all for having me. I appreciate you letting me get on here and tell a little bit about my story. It not only helps me, but if there's something that I can say or do that will maybe impact or help someone else, then that's what it's really about. But yeah, like you said, I'm grew up in Statesville, North Carolina. Um, Growing up, my I have a sister who is younger than me, and I grew up my with a single mom. My dad, they split up when I was about 5 years old. My dad was a real bad alcoholic, and so we moved around quite a bit until I was in elementary school. I was born in Asheville, and we moved a couple of times. And my mom remarried when I was in about third grade. And growing up, I can't. My childhood, I had everything that I needed. I had everything that I needed, and really everything that I wanted. When my mom remarried, my stepdad, he was a good man. He really took care of us, and one thing that he really taught me was a strong work ethic. Now, in my house, it wasn't a household where we really walked around and talked about our emotions a lot. He wasn't the kind of guy that taught me to go fishing or shoot a gun or anything like that. But one thing he did teach me was a strong work ethic. So anytime we really spent time together, it was working. We had Christmas tree farms that we worked in. So, um, yeah, growing up, I was very active in sports. I played um, multiple sports growing up throughout high school. And about 14 or 15 is when I started drinking, and even early on the drinking got to be an issue. 14, 15, even 16 years old. I got my first DUI in my mom's minivan at 16 years old. So, to say the least, she was not happy with having to pick her 16-year-old son up from jail and then pick her minivan up with corn stalks in the fender wells where I'd been going through cornfields. But my drinking kind of really progressed through high school. You know, Everyone was maybe drinking on the weekends, and I was the one with the fake ID, and I would um, get beer before school and drink it before school. And my grades started to, obviously I didn't apply myself to the best of my ability in high school. I did graduate, but my drinking had impacted me, and in my sports as well. So my plan was, I was wanting to go to community college in Wilmington and Cape Fear and play on a soccer team there, and try to get my grades up to where I could actually go to UNCW and play soccer. At that time, 9/11 had happened, and I remember being in class and watching those planes go into the towers and having having hurt my heart, having hurt my heart, knowing that there was Americans that were suffering, and you know, my both my grandfathers served in the military. One was in Vietnam, one was in Korea, but I never really thought about going to the military. 9/11 happened, and continued to see on the in the newspaper that Marines are staging in Kuwait, and I said, I want to do my part. So I graduated high school in 2003, and that November of 2003, I went to boot camp. And that was a wake up call for me. And to be honest, it was probably the best thing that I could have done. To get that structure and discipline back in my life. And so I went through boot camp, went through Parris Island, South Carolina. I graduated um, with honors from boot camp in Parris Island. I went to School of Infantry and did all my initial schooling. And I found myself in Iraq for the first time in 2004 at 19 years old. Very green to my first unit. I think I was only in the unit for um, a few months before we actually deployed. And these were guys that had been together for years. And um, so we went to Fallujah, and that was a situation where I had to grow up very quickly. You know, it um, it impacted me. Even more that I tell the stories and I look back on it. There's always different parts that impact me, and thinking about it now, it's you know obviously during a time of war you're going to lose brothers, and bad things are going to happen, but it's really seeing the struggle in other people. The people that a lot of the population we were there trying to support did not like us and did not want us there, but there were some that really did. And just to see what kids were going through over there impacted me more as I think I've grown up and become a father myself. But yeah, we so I went to Fallujah in 2004. I ended up going back in 2000, in late 2005 and 2006. And early on in the Iraq War, whenever we came back, like post traumatic stress really wasn't talked about a lot. They basically gave you a sheet, and it was kind of a questionnaire, and it was basically like, hey, you're good to go. Let's go get back in the fight. There wasn't a lot of how do you feel? Did certain things affect you? So um, when I got back in 2004, I volunteered to go straight back with another unit. So I found myself in Fallujah in late 2005, 2006. And during this deployment, I was back in Fallujah. Things had kind of cooled down a little bit, but IEDs had became a big thing again. And one thing that really affected me during that deployment is we were on we were at the government center one day, normal day, to where we were intaking for the Iraqi army and the Iraqi police. And me and a couple buddies were on gate guard, and there was the sniper throughout the city that who had been um, killing Marines, and he's been videotaping it, obviously for propaganda reasons. Well, one of my buddies had gotten shot in the throat, and me and a couple other Marines had ran over there, and another one that got shot in the head. So, we lost one, and one survived, but the thing was, he was recording all this, and he would send it to us. and through the intel department, I would get these videos. And after that deployment, when I got back home, I would watch that video over and over again to where it was basically ingrained in my mind. And that is where a lot of the post traumatic stress, the survivor's guilt, the wondering, why me? The thing about, any soldier, especially Marines, we're there to, we'll give our life to the guy to the left and right of us. And that's what it's all about. It's a brotherhood that, in the Marine Corps, we don't, it's not a whole lot of talks. That guys are willing to give their life for you. But watching that video when I got back from that deployment over and over, it started to spiral me out of control, and the only way that I really learned to deal with this was to put substances in my body to change the way I was feeling, because I did not want to deal with the stressors that was um going through my head. Um, so throughout the next few years, I was drinking quite a bit. I had gotten a couple more DUIs, and 2009 and 10, I found myself back in Afghanistan, and in 2010, I was injured, and I remember flying to Germany and waking up, and really one of the first things that was going through my head was, where's my guys? Where's my guys? To be taken out of the fight the way I did, and knowing that your brothers are still in harm's way was a hard pill to swallow. So through having multiple surgeries and a lot of physical pain, I got addicted to pain medication. And after my injury, I got retired from the Marine Corps finally in 2013, I believe, and I moved back to North Carolina and bought a home right through the woods from where my mother had lived, the childhood home that I actually grew up in. And um, my mom obviously knew that there was something going on, and every time she would try to speak to me about it, I would assure her that everything is okay, and I didn't. A lot of things that I went through, I didn't tell my mother about because I didn't want her to worry. And the one time when I was in Iraq, she was so stressed out. I think she actually was put on medication. And, kind of just, back then watching the news, every time you turn the news on, it was, seeing certain service members dying. So, you know, to really alleviate some stress from her, there was a lot of things that I never told her. And to this day, I still haven't told her. But, so yeah, once I kind of got addicted to the pain medication, that was a way for me to not only physically for you know take the pain away, but mentally forget. If I can take this pill, then all of my mental pain and physical pain will be gone. I don't have to think and worry about all the crazy shit that had happened to me. And that it started to spiral out of control after years and years, of kind of getting pain medication from the VA, doctors shopping different doctors, and continuing to have surgeries. Um, I happened to be at the VA one day, and I seen a guy out there, and I said, "Hey, do you have any pills you want to sell?" And he said, "No, but there's nothing around here but heroin." And whenever you are physically addicted to something, you are in that complete limbic response. The executive part of your brain is shut off. So whenever he said we have some heroin, whenever you're physically addicted and sick, then at that moment in time, all my values and morals that I was raised with, everything that my mother and stepfather had instilled in me, left me. When I tried heroin for the first time and put that needle in my arm, there was no going back from that. There was no going back from that. And it got to the point to where, I basically burnt every bridge that that I had. I was living, and I still had my house. I had two dogs that, but I was um, all alone. I was basically all alone, depressed, addicted to heroin, and my day consisted of waking up and seeing how I'm going to go about getting what I needed to get to feel better. And there would be realizations of and through this whole time. My mother, one thing she did was always let me know that she was there for me, that she cared for me, and she loved me. There were times, obviously, that I manipulated that situation, maybe to get what I needed, but she was very firm on, and even from a distance, let me know that she loved me and that she supported me, and she wanted to see her son healthy again. She had come over when things had got, I was probably on heroin for a couple years, and, I agreed to go to treatment. I agreed to go to treatment, and in the back of my head, it was not to get sober. It was because life was going too fast. I needed to pump the brakes. I needed to hit the brakes on life to get my family off my back. You know, um, Maybe there was some stuff going on out in the streets that I needed to get away from, but I had no intentions on stopping. I would go to these 30-day treatment centers and, you know, let them know that I'm changing, that I'm doing better, and give them hope. Which in the back of my head, I had um, zero doubt that I was going to leave there and go relapse right away. And that happened multiple times. Um, After 30-day programs, you know, 5, 6 times I went to multiple VA programs, PTSD centers, and it was the same thing. It was the same thing. I was unwilling to get real with myself and let not only myself but others know what was going on with me mentally. You know, um, and throughout this whole process, I had seen that I had destroyed everything around me. So, fast forward, I was actually in treatment in, let's see, 2020, I believe, 2019, and I seen a buddy that had came to speak at a meeting, and he was telling me about this place called Treehouse, and he said it was a long-term treatment center. He said, you would really love this and benefit from it. Um, it's ran by a lot of military members, and at this point, I had nothing left. I had nothing left, so I had snuck my phone into treatment. So I went back to my room and I called Treehouse, and I basically begged. They had not taken TRICARE at that time, which we do now, but at that time I had to go through multiple channels of back and forth with admissions with my insurance company, trying to get all this paperwork while I'm not even supposed to be having my phone where I'm at. So I got out of there, and what the plan was to go from door to door, to go from North Carolina straight to California. But There's a part of me that said, hey, you can go home for a week. You can go home for a week. And within that week, I left treatment, went straight and relapsed, and OD'd in the parking lot when I was supposed to be meeting my mom for dinner. And um, within that week of me being home, the lights were off in the house. I didn't have a dollar to my name. And I was sitting there on my couch with a pistol in my mouth, really trying to rationalize why it would be better just to take my life, because all I wanted to do was stop the pain. I wanted the pain to stop. Mentally, physically, I was at my end. I had nothing left to give, nothing left, and as I'm sitting there with a pistol in my mouth, trying to get the courage up to end my life, my mother called me, and I remember her saying that I love you. I want to see you healthy no matter what it takes, and I'll support you. And that was really what the kickstart that I needed to really get me onto the track to where I am today. You know, I called admissions and I said, I don't give a shit what has to happen, but I need to be on a plane to California tomorrow. And fast forward a little bit, I get to Treehouse out in Orange County, California, and I really didn't know a lot about the program. But as soon as I got there, I'd been to multiple treatment centers before. When I got there, I felt the actual connection, the brotherhood, and just the individuals, the staff being genuine and authentic and caring about me as an individual. And when I get there, one thing, when I left the military, I took my uniform off. I lost my sense of identity. I lost my sense of purpose. I lost my drive. Along with substance abuse, it made me a man that I didn't even want to look in the mirror and see. So I get there and I'm greeted by these guys, and the first thing they did was come up and try to give me a hug. And I was like, whoa, 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 like, back up. What the hell's all this about? And little did I know that that hug is exactly what I needed at that time. I was so used to being lonely, isolated, depressed. I could be in a room full of people and still feel like I'm by myself. So that connection is what I had missed coming from the military. When I got to Treehouse, I could barely walk from injuries, and you know the thing about Treehouse is at that time they were really good on trying to heal every single part of me together. They were. Um, we were up in the morning. We were in boats. We're PTing on the beach. We're going straight to the gym, and the whole time we're connected with each other. We're connected with each other. And for individuals, I know, especially for myself, struggling with post traumatic stress and substance abuse for so many years, that I had not had that connection in a long time. So be able to be connected with individuals, to go through adversity with other individuals, that creates special bonds with people. You know, maybe during a workout, I would walk in and look at the board and say, I'm not able to do that today. But once I go through it and complete it, that confidence is starting to come back. That drive is starting to come back, and while I was in Treehouse, I actually had a couple of surgeries. I had a knee surgery. I had a bone infection in my femur, and I was in the hospital for 10 days. And I remember laying there with no pain medication, and I speak a lot to guys today about mental strength and mental fortitude. And I laid in that hospital bed and I remember praying and telling myself, no matter what I have to do, nothing is going to get in the way of me being the man that I want to be. Nothing is going to get in the way of me being the man that I want to be. And you think of like mental strength and mental fortitude, you take a little Christmas box, right? Maybe like the size of a ring. And you put another one on top of it, and another one on top of that, and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Well, that's how I kind of got into my mindset. I was so deep into this mindset that no matter what adversity that was thrown at me, I was going to um, be able to handle it and respond to it and continue to move on in a healthy way. And I graduated Treehouse. My initial thought was, I'm from North Carolina, so California is a whole different world to me. My initial thought was I'm going to do 3 months in California and I'm going back to the woods of North Carolina. And, fast forward, I graduate from Treehouse. I sell my home in North Carolina and move out to California. And I faced a tough task right off the bat. I had got an apartment with two guys, and I went back to North Carolina to get my house ready to sell. And one of the guys that I went through the program with, that I was very close with, we're complete opposites. He was a Science Sunday kind of guy, like those EDM dance festivals, that kind of guy. And I'm more of like a Top Gun Roadhouse, Days of Thunder kind of guy. So we're complete opposites, but we really connected. And I got an apartment with him and another guy, and I was in North Carolina getting my house ready to sell, and I got a call that he had OD'd and died. Now, just getting out of treatment, I faced some adversity, some tough times right off the bat, and that was hard, because I could um, give myself a pity party and say, this happened to me, so I deserve to go out and, make myself feel better with a substance. Or, I can look at the situation head on and deal with it. I'm now healthy, so, what tools can I use to move on from this? And my other buddy that was supposed to fly out from California to North Carolina and drive back with me, he relapsed. So here I am, fresh out of treatment, and I had one roommate OD and die, and the other one had relapsed, and I didn't know where he was. So I fly back to California for the funeral, and I remember I'm sitting there in my apartment by myself, thinking like how did it come to this already? And I used to hate when people told me, if you continue to do the right thing, good things will happen. And I remember telling myself, just continue to do the next right thing, continue to do the next right thing. So I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I would go back to Treehouse. I'd be the first one there, and I would volunteer. I would continue to volunteer for about 6 months. I would just show up every day because I needed that social connection. I needed that bond, and throughout this whole process, even when I was in treatment, um, I'm a spiritual person, and to an extent, we won't go any farther than that. But I would pray that I always wanted to be a father. I always wanted to be a father, and I would pray that God would put a woman in my life that would not only challenge me but love me for me, for who I am, and someone that I can grow with and have a family with. And I met a girl who is now my fiance, and it was exactly what I needed at that time. It was the exact same thing that I had been praying for. And when all this was going on with my roommates, she was in Arkansas at her father's house, and I flew back to North Carolina. I still had my dogs there. I had to drive across the country. She flew from Arkansas to North Carolina and drove back with me, and that was, a level of support and love that I had not felt in a long time, and um, it was exactly what I needed. It's hard for me for a long time, it was hard for me to trust individuals. And, she was exactly what I needed in my life at that time. We ended up getting pregnant pretty early into our relationship. And she's a nurse and she works in the mental health field. And, she really understood me. Um, I'm a little bit of a different individual, I like to say. I'm very direct and passionate about what I do, and she is someone that has really loved me for who I am. She knows everything that I've been through, and um, I'm so grateful that she came into my life. We got pregnant, like I said. I have a beautiful daughter now who is almost 2, and she is sassy as hell. But I wouldn't trade anything that I've went through in my life. I wouldn't change anything that I've went through in my life, um, because it's all made me the man that I am today. You know, through adversity, there is growth. Sometimes we don't get to see the big picture aspect when we're going through adversity, and sometimes that's not God's plan. We only see a snapshot of what's going on. So through all this adversity that I've went through in my life, it's always been for a reason. And in the big picture aspect of things, it's always worked out for the best. So about 3 months ago, me and my fiance Danny and my daughter Bristol, we moved to Nashville, where I opened up Treehouse Recovery, Tennessee. It's an IOP program here in Nashville, and to be able to do that, to be able to have my family out here, to be able to have a fiance that understands that this is my purpose, this is my passion. Um, I couldn't ask for a better support system in the world, and there's no greater feeling for me that when an individual comes in, I put myself back in their shoes. I understand those tough times. I remember those days of being sick. I remember those days of sitting there with a freaking pistol in my mouth, ready to take my own life. Um, so when people come in and they're um, maybe at the worst time of their life, to be able to have a hand and um, an impact on them coming back and being healthy, being better fathers, better sons, whatever it may be, there's no greater feeling in this world. And I'm very lucky and very grateful to have the people around me that I do. I definitely could not be where I'm at today without the support of my fiance, the support of all my coworkers, and my family. So I appreciate y'all letting me speak, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Well, thank you for that, Brandon. It's an outstanding story, and you have definitely overcome. It gives us all hope, because we think about a lot of the things that you mentioned here tonight with our own loved ones, and so it's very important for us to hear that, and it's amazing how far you've come and what you've accomplished, and we appreciate that. So
Thank you.
if you have questions for Brandon, just type them into chat and I will pull them from there and we will see what we have here. Okay.
No, I appreciate that, and looking back and thinking about that, I think there's certain situations and certain injuries that I don't care how tough you are that requires some sort of pain medication. But the difference is being able to understand when you don't need it anymore. And I'm not going to sit here and talk bad about the VA system or anything like that, but it was basically um, there was no talk about try taking me down or trying to get me off medication. And at 25, 26, 27 years old, that was something that I after I took the first one and I seen that this takes the pain away mentally and physically, then it was something that was unavoidable, I think. But I think in certain situations, that there's things that are necessary, but we also have to look at the big picture aspect on how do we move forward from this, and let's make sure we come with whether that's our physician, our family, make sure we have a plan on how we're going to move forward with this. Dealing with certain injuries. I hope that answers your
Right.
question.
Right.
Yeah, so through everything that I had went through, me and my mother's relationship, we were dealing with a lot of turmoil. I obviously was not being honest about her with her about what was going on with my youth, what was going on with me mentally, but being able to amend those relationships with my mom. And I remember when I was in treatment, I even called my um my stepdad, which we really, like I said, growing up, we never spoke about our emotions. And there's a preconceived notion in society that a man is, a strong man is someone that doesn't cry. A strong man is someone who does not show emotions. A strong man is someone that doesn't do, X, Y, and Z, which is completely false. You can still be a strong man and be vulnerable with another man, with another individual, with your spouse, whoever that is. A strong man is able to um, control his emotions, and use that in a positive way. So be able to um, realize that, because I had that mindset for a long time. But when I was able to get vulnerable with my stepdad and call him, tell him, that I love you. There was something that I left out. When I was going through all this, I would be going through episodes in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning. I would call my mom, call my stepdad, and tell them, hey, there's somebody out here in the woods, and I would lay in the woods for hours in the middle of the night with a AR, with my stepdad in his truck shining lights down into the woods because like I was right back into those certain situations, and he never said anything. He would sit down with me for hours and not say anything, him, except that, he supports me. There was really no "I love you" or anything like that. But to be able to call him and tell him when I was when that fog cleared, that you know I appreciate you and I love you and thank you for everything that you've done for me. And to be able to really tell my mom that actions speak louder than words. And I know as parents, I'm sure that you all hear it all the time that, Mom, I'm going to do better this time. Mom, I'm going to do better this time. And, being a father myself now, the way that I love my children, I know that I would do anything for my child. But the flip side of that is, you know, am I doing this for my child in a healthy way or a non healthy way? You know, Sometimes we have to take that emotion out of it and think with reason. And, that's hard. As parents, that's a hard pill to swallow whenever you see your loved one struggling with certain things. I'm sure you have the same mindset that I would do anything to protect my kids and to love them and help them. But the flip side of that is, am I continuing to help them go down this dark road, or am I able to set boundaries? My mom, for a long time, she would love me, but she would also love me from a distance. And I think that's important to note because you can still love someone and um, take that codependency out. There's times where you can still tell um, your child or your spouse or whoever that you love them, you support them, while drawing boundaries. And I think for family members that having those boundaries are so important. So yeah, Treehouse is more of a holistic approach. We look at treating your biology through physical exercise, your psychology, and the social connections. Treehouse is, you come on, you're putting a team, you're living with guys in bunk beds, you're around each other all the time, you're socially connected from the time you wake up, from the time you go to bed. And there is you know I tell guys all the time, whether AA works for you or not, it's a good tool in early sobriety to have in your toolbox. Okay, why not have all the ammunition you can whenever you're fighting these demons? So at Treehouse, we have writing therapy. We have a Vietnam vet who is awesome, who created the Naked Writing program that, um, as a Marine, somebody that dealt with post traumatic stress, the writing program was something that really helped me. I can sit here and talk all day to someone, but to write it down and have that visual as I'm processing this with someone was very impactful in my process. So a typical day though, we're up 6 o'clock in the morning. We go, we get in boats. We're in the water in the ocean, and that's action-based induction therapy where it's all about healing the prefrontal cortex. We're socially connected. We're learning to regulate those emotions. But understanding that we're surrounded by guys that care about us, guys that love us, um, and you know, after that we work out. And I tell guys all the time, they come in, they take their shirts off, and they say, "Hacksaw, I'm looking big, ain't I?" And I say, you're looking good mentally. Looking good physically is a byproduct of what we do. Trying to get individuals to understand that we have that natural pharmacy in our brains. Okay, we can change the way we're feeling through physical activity versus putting a substance in our body to change the way that we feel. Um, and one another big thing was that helped me. embodied presence, yoga, being able to sit with myself in silence and understanding to how to regulate my emotions. For a long time, one of the hardest things for me to do was shut off between my ears. That was my biggest problem, was I couldn't shut off what was going on between my ears. And you know through our yoga teacher there, she's amazing, Kathy, and she really takes an approach, and she looks out on different levels for clients, and she's really awesome at what she does. But um, yes, that answers your question. I mean,
Okay.
correct. Right now we're just IOP. Um,
Is there a plan for it to be inpatient?
there is big picture aspect. Big picture aspect. I would love to see it into a PHP program. But
Okay.
right now we're IOP, and that's not just our sessions might be Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, but you have me 24 hours a day. If there's a situation, you can always call me. If you call me and say, hey, I need to, talk, I need to get a workout in the morning before I go to work, I'm always going to be there.
Mhm. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, as a parent that's been dealing with that for 20 years, I can understand why it's frustrating. But I would, and here's what I tell parents all the time, and this is something that I have to accept myself, that we can do everything in our power to bring an individual to the line, but we cannot physically pull an individual over the line. They have to take that step and want that themselves. You can do everything in our power to bring them to that line, but we cannot pull them over. And as a therapist, that's hard to swallow, because I get invested in people all the time. And I can only imagine how it is to be dealing with that as a parent. But what I would say is, when he is ready, you know, you've been dealing with this for 20 years as well. I suggest that um, you get into a family program as well. We have Treehouse has a family program that's awesome. It's done virtually, and you know, the family needs to heal at the same time as the individual. Because there's so much there on both sides. But whenever he's ready, you know, make sure you're ready to heal as well. Make sure you're ready to heal as well. Guys come into treatment, and it might be 3 or 4 months, and they say, I'm not getting along with my wife or my mother, and it's just because individuals are in treatment getting better, sometimes they forget about all the turmoil and um, all the wreckage that they left in their past. Just because they are getting healthy and doing the work that they need to do to be successful and be healthy, the parents, the family members, are still on the other side picking up the pieces, and everyone heals at their own time. So whenever he is ready, make sure that you're ready too. Make sure you're ready to take that step, and maybe seek out a family program or whatever that may be. But as far as like managing him, I would say that whenever he is ready, be there to support him. But also, this has been going on 20 years, so there has to be some strict boundaries there. There has to be some strict boundaries there, because if this has been going on 20 years, obviously he knows that maybe he can come back to mother, and maybe get whatever he needs to manipulate a situation. And, like I said, you can always love someone, but at some point you have to love them from a distance. Let them know that you still support them and love them, but you also have to make sure you're taking care of yourself as well.
Absolutely. So we've got a couple comments and one last question because we're running a little bit long here. And
Thank you very much.
then
I appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, I would say that my mom loved me from a distance is something that really helped me, because if I was to continue to know that I can go back to mother and get whatever I want, I can manipulate any situation with my family to continue to get what I want, then that's always going to be there. You know, as a parent, letting them know that you support them and you love them, but you're also not going to co-sign any unhealthy behavior. As a parent, that's the hardest thing in the world. But as someone who is struggling with substance abuse, you know, everyone's bottom is different. Everyone's bottom is different, and to me, when I got to that situation to where I knew I had no more resources, I had nothing left. I was tired of fighting. I was tired of running. I was tired. I had nothing left in me. You know, I had no other choice but to seek out and get help. Now, on the flip side of that, if I knew that I could continue to go back to mom and maybe get what I wanted, today we understand what is on the streets. We understand that that one time might be the last time. So there's, I understand as a family member that's hard to hear, but that was probably one thing that saved my life, really, because if I knew that that resource was always going to be there, then I always had something to fall back on. I always had something to fall back on.
absolutely. That's a big one. Okay, so the last comment slash question.
Yeah, so personally, I had a sister. So my stepsister, we've been together since I was, I think in second or third grade. So she lives in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I'm very close to her. I'm very close to her, and as a sibling, that was one thing that she did as well. She always would call and check up on me and tell me that she's praying for me, that she loves me, and there were times to where maybe I didn't want to talk to my mother and tell her what was going on, but I know that I could call my sister and talk to her, and there's not going to be any judgment there. She wouldn't send me money or help me out, but she would also let me know that once again she cared about me and she loved me. Um, and she's I just seen her not long ago, and she's obviously super proud of me, and our relationship has gotten that much better. My real sister, through all this, um, we were not as close. She lost a baby when it was just a couple of weeks old, so she suffers with not substance abuse but some trauma, and she's kind of pushed my family away. Um, and I still see my nephew and everything. And actually, over Christmas, I went over there, and it was the first time I'd seen her in probably 3 or 4 years. And, I didn't go over there and, give her an earful or tell her how she's doing this or that wrong. But, I gave her a hug and, told her that I love her. And sometimes that means more than anything, I think, from someone that is struggling, when a family member, you know, they're maybe scared to go to family functions or whatever because they don't want to hear the family on the individual's back constantly. So a family member coming up and just saying, "Hey, I love you," and maybe giving you a hug, that goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Brandon, we thank you. I mean, every bit of your story resonates with us, and we're just so super proud of you and everything you've overcome. And I believe our moms and members here, if y'all would like to turn on your cameras and say thank you to Brandon and just let him see you before we let him go, that would be great if you want to. They have cameras on. There's Kim. There's Maria. We tried to wear a little patriotic colors for you, Brandon,
Uh,
because it's so important to us, and we really, really do appreciate your service, and but mostly just so thankful that you've overcome all of this, and it just means a lot to us that you spent your time here with us tonight, and we just wanted to thank you.
well, I really appreciate y'all letting me come on and tell my story, and hopefully, maybe something does resonate with someone, or they see maybe a point of view that or something that could help them, and even if they maybe see myself or whatever that looks like as a resource. You know, I am the program director at Treehouse Recovery in Tennessee, so you can always reach out to me if I can be of any assistance and be a resource for anyone. So
Oh,
I really appreciate y'all letting me come on. So thank you.
well, thank you so much, Brandon. We appreciate you.
Thank you,
Thank
Brandon.
you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
you
Brandon.
very
Thank y'all.
much.
Thank
Have a
you
good
for
Thank
your service.
Rock on,
All
son.
right.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you, Brandon.